What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Read an interesting quote from Mario Cristobal yesterday that gave me an idea to tackle what a lot of people treat as fact. And it's the idea that Mario Cristobal is just obsessed with the running game, smash mouth football at the expense of the passing game. Now, we're going to dig into the numbers and see, is that truth or is that myth? And how does that apply to this offense with Cam Ward and Damien Martinez? First, I want to talk about some folks that are always the truth. That is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. All right, Pete, hop in. This is something that always sets the message boards on fire. CanesInsight.com, 6.9 million posts and counting, register for free. Twitter on fire, Facebook groups, group chats, you name it. The idea of Mario Cristobal and kind of, oh, he's a caveman. He just wants to pound the ball. What's he going to do with a quarterback that can actually throw? I saw some videos talking about that on YouTube. And, you know, I wanted to dig into the numbers to see, is this just some myth that gets repeated by people? Or is it actually the truth bearing out in numbers? And how does it impact Cam Ward, Damien Martinez, and the ability of this team to win a championship?
Yeah, very interesting stuff. I mean, it kind of goes away from what most of the public believes about Mario and the way he runs his offense. Obviously, his background as an offensive lineman, as an offensive line coach, tight end coach, that all goes into it. But I think what we see here, D, is he really tries to play to the strengths of what he has, you know, on the team, on the roster. We all know Miami's a strong offensive line, but the quarterback position is what everyone's talking about this offseason.
Now, let me just lay the groundwork here before we jump into the stats. When it comes to how pass happy and run happy a team is, my favorite stat is rushing play percentage. That is the percentage of your plays that are run plays. Very simple stat, right? You take the total plays, divide it by the running plays or the passing plays, depending which one you're trying to figure out, and you figure out your passing play percentage and your run play percentage. If you pass it 60% of the time, your running play percentage is 40%. And then you look at the rankings, and when you're ranking rush play percentage, the more run happy teams are going to be at the top. So a team like, you know, Army, Navy, the service academies, those are going to be near the top of rushing play percentage. A Mike Leach team, RIP, would be towards the bottom. So the lower you are, the more pass happy you are, according to this statistic. I also use teamrankings.com. It's always what I use for stats on this show, because teamrankings.com takes away the FCS games, which are really just kind of fluff. So it gives you only stats against FBS opponents. So with that background, let's look at Mario Cristobal's career starting at Oregon through Miami. And here you see on the graphic, his first year at Oregon with Justin Herbert, 61st in rushing play percentage. Second year at Oregon, 66th in rushing play percentage, 52%. Now he's running more than throwing on those teams, but again, you have to put it relative to the rest of the country. This is 66th as opposed to, you know, the teams that really run the ball a lot and are in that top 25 of rush play percentage. Now here at Oregon, another quarterback situation, not quite as good as Justin Herbert, but he's still throwing it. 59th in rushing play percentage, 54%. 21-22, Anthony Brown. This is a running quarterback. So obviously, this is going to be the highest rushing play percentage of his tenure, which it was, but 48th in the country, 55%. So that's as rush happy as Mario Cristobal's gotten with a running quarterback, 48th in the country in rush play percentage, nowhere near the top 30. Now let's look at Miami, which is, of course, most relevant to what we're talking about here. His first year, Miami, 96th in rushing play percentage with Josh Gattis, which means Miami is one of the most pass-happy teams in the nation. Only ran at 46.8% of the time. That goes against the narrative of what Josh Gattis was trying to do. 96th in the nation in run play percentage last year, with TVD collapsing, with the mental collapse of your starting quarterback where you really couldn't trust him to throw the ball with the way teams were playing him. 88th in rush play percentage, 49.21% rushing plays. So again, at no point was Mario one of the more run-heavy coaches in the country. The peak with a quarterback that was a running quarterback, which means you're running twice, you're handing it off and you're running with your quarterback, 48 in the country, nothing crazy. Justin Herbert, the whole narrative that they wasted Justin Herbert by running the ball relentlessly, 66th in the country, 52%. And by the way, that offense was top 10 in Power 5 in scoring. I believe it was 14th in the nation overall in scoring, and they won 12 games. So that was the year he wasted Justin Herbert. I don't think Justin Herbert's won like that since he has been a quarterback as a starter at the college or pro level. So when you look at these numbers, it shows you that this idea that Mario Cristobal is afraid to pass the ball just doesn't line up with what he's done at previous stops.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because I don't think his offenses have been air raid necessarily. Obviously, Shannon Dawson's there now, but you saw with Gaddis, it was the lowest percentage that he had at all. And Gaddis was coming from Michigan, which was a quote unquote power run scheme, right? So interesting there to look at these numbers. Definitely goes against the public narrative. And he says it, as we'll get to in just a second here, said in an interview with Joe Rose the other day, that it's all about, balance is important, but we got to be explosive, and we're trying to put points up however we can.
Yeah, let's pull up that quote here, because I want to hear what Mario said about the run-pass balance and how he approaches offense. Of course, we got Cam Ward, great running back in Damian Martinez with the great quarterback in Cam Ward, offensive line that can run and pass block, good receivers. You have a lot of options. You really have a balanced offense in terms of the distribution of talent, but that does not necessarily mean that it's a 50-50 split.
So here is the quote the other day. I'm going to have the question as well from Joe Rose, so you guys have the context.
Oh, but I'm just curious, when you look at the breakdown of when you guys talk about goals, do you see it being more of a running team or a passing team? Do you guys talk about that, or whatever it takes from week to week to win?
No, I don't think you can be one-dimensional in football nowadays. You got to be able to throw to win. And, everybody wants to be 50-50. I'd like to be scoring 50 points a game, in whatever way we can get that done. Coach Dawson has done an unbelievable job, along with the rest of the staff, formulating a plan that really highlights and make sure that we get the ball in the hands of the guys that can make plays happen to make us more explosive. We were more efficient last year. We scored more points. We controlled the ball better. We weren't overly explosive, right? Our big runs and big passes weren't in the numbers that you'd like a championship team to be in. So that being said, whatever it takes to move the ball. But when you have a quarterback like this and an offensive line like this, and you have a running back and, guys that we feel are high-level guys, you got to make sure it gets spread around, but you aim to be as explosive as you can possibly be, and I think our coordinator is doing that.
So you heard it right there, talking about wanting to be as explosive as possible. Obviously, efficiency is very important to him as well, but he's mentioned multiple times this offseason, D, that the lack of big plays downfield really held this team back last season.
No question, and big plays in the running game, quite frankly, as well. Cam Ward last year, a lot of talk is, hey, Cam Ward's an air raid quarterback, let him rip. I saw some video talking about, Mario, don't hold back Cam Ward. Well, let me address this. Cam Ward had the entire offense to himself at Washington State. He was talking about rushing play percentage. Washington State was one of the most pass-happy teams in the nation, bar none. They had absolutely no running game. The offense was entirely about Cam Ward. And what did Cam Ward do? He transferred to Mario Cristobal and the University of Miami. He heavily recruited Damian Martinez because he knows that him being a one-man show and throwing the ball every single time is not going to lead to success for the team. You saw Washington State's record despite having a great quarterback. He wants a power running game. He wants that play action game. Now, the question is, do you lose all of what made Cam Ward great? And I think that is where Shannon Dawson, being an air raid guy who also now has had another year with Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal on this great offensive line, is able to balance air raid concepts that Cam Ward's familiar with an ability to run the ball and to play off the running game in a way that Cam Ward was unable to do at Washington State. And Pete, pull up the quote here because Cam Ward did an interview with EJ Manuel of the ACC Network, and he said it right there. That's why I love playing here. Coach Dawson gives me the freedom to play the style that I want to play. He chose Miami. He watched our film last year, and he didn't say, guys, I wish you passed more. He said, wow, man, if you gave me what TVD had, plus a running back like Martinez or whoever else they would have gotten from the portal, I can put up huge numbers and win a lot of games. So the idea that you want Cam Ward to be the Cam Ward from Washington State, to me, is completely misguided and just ignores what winning in college football is all about, which we're going to get to here in a second as we take a historic look as to the teams that actually win national championships and kind of shatter this idea about we need to be the team that throws the ball every single snap. It's just, again, I think people on one hand, they misconstrue what Mario Cristobal is and how willing he is to throw the ball. But the other hand, they misconstrue what wins in college football. And we'll give you a spoiler. We'll go through the stats. It's not throwing the ball every single time. So we'll get to that first. Want to give some love to the Miami Hurricane team store. Pete, pull it up. These guys, this is the old All Canes. If you loved All Canes growing up, Harry, the whole team is now at the Miami Hurricane team store official with the University of Miami Athletic Department. You want to support the University Athletic Department, have premium official gear. The Miami Hurricane team store is the place for you. MiamiHTS.com if you want to see the website, the actual store right there on South Dixie Highway, US 1, in front of the school, the Thesis. You're taking your son or daughter back to school, you yourself are going back to school, or you're just in the area, stop by the team store. The facility's fantastic. If you're not there, Miami HTS, that's Hurricane Team Store initials.com. And you see right here all the great stuff for the summer, for pre-gaming, for Florida. You can get it at the Miami Hurricane Team Store. Also want to shout out Canes Connection, the official NIL collective of the Miami Hurricanes. These are allowing players like Cam Ward and Damian Martinez to come into our system. If you're a member, thank you for being part of the solution. If you're not, sign up now. Your first month, no matter what price point you join at, it could be $25, it could be $1,000, anything in between. You will get the first month for $1. Use the link in our YouTube page or on the website, or just type in canesconnection.com/CIS. You get that deal. And you also get access to a private Zoom call where I will be able to talk about camp in a way that I can't do in a public setting. I've been holding back a little bit, but sign up to canesconnection.com/CIS. You could use the link in the YouTube or on the website, and you will get access to that Zoom. We're doing one on Thursday at 8, and I'll give you the absolute latest from camp, non-public, exclusive insider booster level information that you can only get if you are a booster, signing up, canesconnection.com/CIS. Always dreamed about being one of those guys. You can be that and support the team. And when you see Cam Ward holding that trophy, you'll know you had a part of it. So want to go through another statistical kind of journey here, Pete. And it's the idea that Cristobal is subscribing to some outdated philosophy about power run. Because yes, I think it is overdone that he only wants to run the ball. But it is accurate that he believes in his heart that you need to be able to run the ball when they know you're going to run it and impose your will on the other team in order to win a championship. All that physicality, that toughness, it's like a meme on CanesInsight.com. They spell it FYZICA, tough and physical, TUFF and physical, kind of making fun of it. Listen, watch football, college football in January, and you will see that tough and physical football is what wins, period. You can evolve. Alabama evolved to have more pass-happy offense, but they never, ever, ever lost that physical base. And let's just go through the list, Pete, and chime in as I'm going through these, because we've been getting complaints that we don't let you talk enough. So jump in and interrupt me here as I go through these names.
Well, I'll say this: it reminds me of when people talk about the NBA playoffs, right? And although the Warriors kind of dispelled this theory a bit, but like they always talk about these offensive, these great offensive teams. The game slows down in the playoffs. I think in college football, to finish off some of these games, right? You can put up all these points, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to control and wear down some of these teams physically, which is kind of like what I expect Miami to be able to do this year, is have that, explosive passing game, but lean on that run game, when you absolutely need to.
Not to get too far into basketball, but the Warriors dynasty, they were one of the top 3 defensive teams in basketball throughout that period. Draymond Green, one of my favorite players, absolutely essential in that. But let's go through. So Miami Hurricanes won the championship in 2001, right? Obviously, the last 20 plus years have not been so kind to the Hurricanes, but let's see what has been winning national championships and what they look like. 2002, the quarterback of Ohio State, hate to bring up bad memories, Craig Krenzel, by no means a star, Who was the running back? Who was the best player on that team? Who's the symbol of that Ohio State offense? Maurice Clarett, 230 pounds, power runner. Next year, LSU. Who's the quarterback? Matt Mock. So we got Craig Krenzel followed by Matt Mock. But look at their running backs. Justin Vincent, 222 pounds. And then Joseph Adai, first-round back with a ton of power. 2004, you start to get more of a balanced dynasty, which was USC. They could run and throw with Matt Leinart. But when push came to shove, and of course, Reggie Bush gets all the headlines. But when push came to shove, who was the guy they handed to? Who was their leading rusher? Lendale White at 235 pounds, key part of that dynasty. 2005, Texas. Jamal Charles was the running back. He's a speed guy. But who was the actual leading rusher on the team that had the ball when it mattered? Who was the real runner on that 2005? Vince Young.
And now, obviously he was the guy who won it for them at the end of the game there.
233 pounds. Florida, the next year, Chris Leak at quarterback. Deshaun Wynn was the running back, 238 pounds. And again, who is their real running back when they needed some short yards?
Tebow,
245 pounds. Next year, Matt Flynn. Again, these quarterbacks that we've listed are not dynamic players. Matt Flynn was the quarterback. Running back, Jacob Hester. Big white guy, fullback type, 225 pounds. Physical running when they can't stop it in these close games. 2008, the Gators, they had speed at running back, kind of like Texas when they won, right? They had Jeff Demps and Chris Rainey in that crew. But who was their real running back? Tim Tebow, 245 pounds. 2009, Greg McElroy, again, not a world-beating quarterback. Now we're entering the Alabama and Georgia era. And if there's one thing we think about when we think about Alabama and Georgia, I think of a quarterback with bangs who's not really that good and some 240-pound five-star backs pounding you. That's how I recall this era of SEC football. But let's just go through the list real quick. Greg McElroy, again, not a world beater. Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson. Mark Ingram, a Heisman Trophy winner, 215. Trent Richardson, 228 pounds, just, completely jacked up. 2010, similar story to Vince Young and Tim Tebow. Who's leading rusher on that team? Cam Newton, 245 pounds. Now we got back-to-back Bama wins, which is basically A.J. McCarron, okay. Trent Richardson, Eddie Lacy, TJ Yeldon.
Eddie Lacy was the power back.
250 pounds, right? FSU more balanced with Jameis Winston. Devontae Freeman only 206 pounds, but he played above his size. He was a true running back. They could run the ball when the other team expected it. Plus they had Carlos Williams, who was a 220-plus pound back. 214, Ohio State, they had three quarterbacks throughout that season. They won it with their third-string quarterback, but who was their running back? Ezekiel Elliott. 223 pounds. In the 2015, Pete, we were talking about this off air. Who was the quarterback of Alabama's championship in 2015? Let's see if the listeners can get it. Give him a second. Pete, who's the quarterback for
Jacob Coker? I was telling you, I always forget that he existed,
But who was the running back? Derrick Henry, 247 pounds, looked like the Terminator. Clemson kind of shifted a little bit. Certainly a quarterback-centric offense with Clemson and the great defensive line play. They did have Wayne Gallman, who was a tough inside runner, undersized, 210 pounds. But that was more of a quarterback-centric dynasty. Jalen Hurts and Tua the next year really hurts for most of the year. He was one of the leading rushers on the team, big, powerful runner. Damian Harris, another runner behind him. Then you get to Trevor Lawrence, quarterback-led dynasty, but you still had Travis Etienne, who was a physical runner. Trevor at the end, still a physical runner, and he's in the NFL and doing his thing. If there was one team I thought that did not have this kind of power running game, it would be 2019 with Joe Burrow. Now, of course, you had an all-pro quarterback and two all-pro receivers, so it was a unique deal. But even then, you still had a Pro Bowl or a first-round running back with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But that's one team I thought was quarterback.
Well, that was
centric.
The best passing attack maybe in history, right? So
right. If you have that, then maybe this theory doesn't apply. But they still had a first-round back. Then you had Mac Jones, again, great receivers, but you had Najee Harris, 240 pounds, right? Georgia back-to-back with a walk-on quarterback and Stetson Bennett. And those running backs on those Georgia teams were not huge names. Your Zamir Whites, your Kenny McIntoshes.
Elijah Holyfield was another one.
Yeah, you had guys like that, but they were certainly, when you thought Georgia, you certainly didn't find them to be soft in the running game. They could impose their will when they needed to running the ball. That was a trademark of Georgia, still is, always will be probably. But if you look at that list, I would say someone listening might say, well, in the 2000s, maybe early 2010s, you could really see that difference. But towards the end, you saw more, your Joe Burrows, your Trevor Lawrence's quarterback-driven type of teams with elite first-round receivers all over the place. And that's true. But who won the championship last year? The Michigan Wolverines, who, yes, they had a first-round quarterback, but he was throwing it like 9 times a game. They were the ultimate power running team. That was their identity. So if you want to talk about modern football, the most recent championship was running the ball whenever they wanted, and that was a key part of their identity to run when they needed to run. Long history lesson there. What's the point? Cristobal's not a caveman for saying that you need to run the ball when the other team expects you to run. He's not a caveman for saying you need to impose your will on the other team. He's not a caveman to say you need some size at that running back position to not just make the highlights, but to really punish teams in the fourth quarter. That's not caveman thinking. That is championship football thinking, because when you go back from 2002, the last time we were in the picture, to today, all of these teams could do that. It is an essential part of a championship formula, and Miami happens to have a running back who is 240 pounds, who is extremely physical, and who is an NFL back in Damian Martinez.
I don't know if he's quite 240 right now, D. I think he's leaned up a little bit, but I mean, either way, he's definitely 225, 230 and moving. And don't forget, you have another guy with him in that backfield, and Mark Fletcher, who's got some serious size on him as well. So you're going to be it's like I said the other day in one of these shows, like, yeah, you normally have that thunder and lightning aspect. And obviously there are some guys in the backfield that can bring that change of pace in A.J. Allen, in Chris Johnson, Jordan Lyle. We expect to be in the mix as a complete back, but you're working on big there when you have Fletcher in that backfield as well.
Yeah, and look, that's not to say you don't want explosiveness. I mean, the teams I've listed, you had your Jalen Waddles mixed in there, you had your Reggie Bushes mixed in there, your Jamal Charles. Yeah, you want that. Mario's been recruiting that. I mean, you have Chris Johnson in the backfield. You try to recruit speed at receiver. You want even more speed at receiver. But at the end of the day, football has not changed. It's changed a lot since the beginning. But at the end of the day, it is a physical sport played by men against men. And the ability to get that extra yard when that team knows it's coming, the demoralizing factor. How many times have we seen Alabama and Georgia, or even Florida when Tim Tebow is rolling, and you bet against them, or you're just cheering against them, and they just, in the fourth quarter, they've been on the ropes, but then they get a little bit of an upper hand and they're just pounding. And then they get that 25-yard run where they finish over a defensive back and knock him on his butt. And the wind goes out of the other team. There's a reason why these backs are on all these type of championship teams, because that's still 150 years later is still what football's about. So that's the Damian Martinez factor, but doesn't discount Cam Ward, doesn't discount what Trevor Lawrence, what Joe Burrow, what these quarterbacks have done, and what Cam Ward has the ability to do with a coach who, when you looked at the numbers that we talked about previously, I don't think is going to hold him back. And I have not seen any evidence that he's going to hold him back based on what I saw in spring and what I saw in camp. And listen, you guys saw the spring game. Cam Ward is going to be Cam Ward, but he came to Miami because he wants to be Cam Ward with a running game and with a physical offensive line, because that's a championship version of Cam Ward and not just a Cam Ward that puts up numbers.
Yeah, I mean, look, the balance to me on this offense is what is going to scare opposing defensive coordinators, D, because Damian Martinez has said it, pick your poison. That, I think, is going to be a real separator for this team. And again, we expect them to be explosive downfield in the passing game, but there might be a game or two that, for whatever reason, they don't have it going in the passing game. You can lean on that run game. And then even if the pass game is working late in these ball games, as we've talked about, wear these teams down and really make them quit deep in the game.
Yeah, that's the ability to do both. Mario talked about being balanced doesn't mean 50-50. Being balanced means if they're playing two safeties deep, or if you're just trying to win a game late and salt away a lead, you can punish them with your running back. But if they come up and bring one of those safeties up, play man, challenge you to throw the ball down the field, you can burn them for 6 overnight. So that to me is the difference between what balanced football really is and what the cliche is, which is 50 run, 50 pass. That's not what it is. Balance means you can do what you need to do when you need to do it. And I think this Miami Hurricane team, more than any Miami Hurricane team probably since the early 2000s, has the ability to be a truly balanced team.
Agreed, 100%. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We come at you every day, Monday through Friday, with these Canes Insight daily shows. Also throw in a live show during the week at some point where we answer your questions from the Canes Insight community. Check out CanesInsight.com, completely free to sign up. D's been putting out great articles every day as we continue to track the happenings here throughout camp. And we're getting pumped up, man. One day closer to Gainesville, August 31st.
We're going to start breaking down the matchup specifically now as we get closer here. We got our preseason hype pod, got some things working with Mike Ryan, who, by the way, tomorrow is Wednesday, which means Mike Ryan is back on the show. Now we got our legs under us. Now we're going to have some fun and really, take this thing to another level and do some different things. But of course, we're going to have the in-depth football talk just like today. We're going to break down the UF game over the course of the week. We got some things cooking. We also got my preseason hype podcast, which will be dropping shortly before the game. Most money we ever spent on it and time we ever spent on it. So we're trying to keep up with the Canes program and make it as good as possible. We're going to have a lot of fun. Like, subscribe, CanesInsight.com. You sign up for free. The best Canes talk on the planet, anywhere. 6.9 million posts and counting. And again, if you're a Canes Connection member or you want to be part of the solution, winning that 6th national championship, just sign up with the link here on YouTube, on our website, or just write CanesConnection.com/CIS. And you get access to a private Zoom call on Thursday, which will be recorded for members if you can't make it. But I'll give you everything I can give you from camp that is the non-public information. You do not want to miss that. Support the cause, become a booster, get that booster level info, be part of Canes Connection. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Yeah, this an insight to the Canes, and we ain't playing no games. Joaquin said dominate, so that's what we do. Home of the legends and 7th floor crew, down in Miami where hurricanes brew. You here for the rumors, we bring you the news, cause it's all about the you, and nobody do it like Canes Insight. 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 It's Canes Insight.